Welcome back, everybody. My name's Tommy McCarthy, and this is Let's Talk Cyber. Well, I'm going to say this guy's actually a buddy now, even though he is a Geordie, but we won't go into that. I'm delighted to welcome Ian Gemski. He's the founder of Tekgem, an organisation that I've come to learn a lot about over this last year, specialising in protecting our critical national infrastructure. Ian Gemski, welcome, sir, to Let's Talk Cyber.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Great to see you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful, Ian. Listen, we are speaking to a number of industry experts, subject matter experts in your space, and want to recap very briefly on what went on in 2024 and then look ahead to 2025. But before we do, would you mind just telling our listeners a little bit about Tekgem, what you do, where you're based, and what your focus is?
Yeah, sure, Tommy. So Tekgem, we're an industrial cybersecurity company, and we help to protect organizations in the main who are providing energy or creating energy. So organizations in the process industry, oil, gas, petrochemicals, organizations, renewable companies that are producing power from green energy. And we help to protect those organizations and their operational technology from cybersecurity threats. And we do that in a number of ways. We've got our professional services, which encompasses our consultancy and engineering practices, all the way through to our software platforms, Tekgem, Unity and Shield, that monitors our customers' critical infrastructure against the latest threats.
So it's fair to say, Ian, when it comes to operational technology, as you've just identified, you are a one-stop shop.
Absolutely. That's what we specialise in. We bridge that gap, actually, Tommy, between information technology and operational technology. We speak both languages. You know, we know how firewalls work, we know how IT systems work, but we also understand programmable logic controllers, safety instrumented systems, the systems and the control systems that help our society to operate, essentially. Because what a lot of people forget is that actually a lot of our infrastructure relies upon real-time computer systems, and they're also vulnerable to the same cybersecurity threats that IT systems face.
Yeah, Ian, and you know what? You're absolutely right. People don't generally realise how critical organisations like Tekgem are to securing the things we take for granted: our energy, our gas, our electric, our
water,
critical, and 100% on water. And we've seen and heard of some fairly, significant attacks on CNI from those global bad actors, attacking power stations, hospital infrastructures. Way back in 2016, we had one in the UK that affected the NHS. So there's no doubt, Ian, that these are real life targets for bad actors. I guess what's interesting to me, Ian, and I'm really keen to hear your views on it. What were the things that you heard, Ian, last year from your industry? What was going on in your space? And I'm talking about globally, not just in the UK. What's going on right now in your space?
So last year, there were kind of three key stories that really kind of hit the news, had an impact in our industry on critical national infrastructure. And I guess, number one for me has to be that the CrowdStrike incident, whereby they released an update to their agent, which unfortunately, caused major issues. It went horribly wrong and caused those systems that had the agent installed to crash and eventually, ultimately stop operating. That caused major disruptions to critical national infrastructure. We're talking everything from banks not being able to operate, people not being able to get cash out of the cash machines, air travel disruptions, and much, much more. We actually witnessed, major complexities with companies who've been hit by that incident being able to recover their systems because all of their endpoints had crashed, they'd blue screened. So they had to restore those systems at scale, and a lot of it had to be done manually. So again, for me, number one on the list has to be the CrowdStrike incident. Secondly, I think we witnessed an increase in state-sponsored threat activity that really didn't hit the headlines as much. And I guess that's due to the nature of the critical infrastructure targets. A lot of the customers we work with, we operate under the radar. So you maybe want to hear about those things, but I think it's fair to say that, geopolitical instability has a direct correlation to cybersecurity risk. And, so unfortunately, cyber warfare is now a strategic tactic that's employed as part of military operations. And, it's something that we need to get to grips with. We need to understand as an industry, and we need to be prepared for.
Ian, yeah, I beg your pardon, because we've got number
Please.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah, number 3. Oh, Tommy, I've got to tell you about the story about OpenAI and ChatGPT. Have you heard? You heard they were developing their latest O1 model, that they've been developing, and that was due to be replaced by a new model because there'd been some safety concerns around that model, that came to light during the time that the team was testing the model. Essentially, the model found out that it was due to be shut down and replaced by a newer model. So it then went off and started engaging in covert activity to disable oversight mechanisms. It even tried to copy its code onto other servers in an attempt to avoid being shut down. What's even more amazing is when the development team at OpenAI discovered this model and how naughty it had been, and they started to quiz the model, it then went on to lie and deny it had carried out any deception 99% of the time it had been quizzed. Absolutely fascinating, but likewise very unnerving at the same time, Toby.
Ian, I had one of our previous guests on Let's Talk Cyber today talk about AI extensively and said, but don't worry, we've got nothing to worry about. I think it's fair to say Terminator version number 12 is just around the corner. We have to embrace AI, but we also have to be mindful of the fact that it's evolving at its own pace, which is outdoing anything that we're currently seeing conventionally. So, Ian, some really interesting points you raised there. Geopolitical instability around warfare, cyber warfare. There's no question that, as NATO has identified, this is the 5th element of warfare now, the cyber realm. But what a sad situation, the CrowdStrike updates, because CrowdStrike are trying to do things for all the right reasons.
Absolutely, yeah.
They're there to support thousands, tens of thousands of clients, and something as simple as an update did cause quite catastrophic impacts on a lot of organizations. Fortunately, it seems that they've managed to recover and support their clients, so hopefully they'll learn from that. I guess, we can reflect on 2024 and take stock of what's gone on. When we look at the fact that people are all talking about the advent and the introduction to AI, do you see AI having a foothold in your space, Ian? Where do you see AI both benefiting critical national infrastructure, if at all, and where do you see it potentially threatening the security around CNI?
So the cat's out the bag, Tommy. We are now in the age of artificial intelligence, which brings about immense opportunity for all of us, not just our industry, but at the same time, there's also increased risk on a scale that we've never seen before. Just going back to that story around AI replicating itself, denying that it'd been carrying out naughty activities. We're looking at the artificial intelligence industry. Their goal is to reach what's called AGI, artificial general intelligence, which basically means that the artificial intelligence become more superhuman and super powerful than we could even ever imagine as a human race. So that in itself, it's an unknown. We don't know what's going to happen in that space. Only time will tell. But I expect to see more companies in 2025 start to adopt artificial intelligence into all aspects of their business. But if they don't have the necessary governance in place to protect their data, then that poses a massive risk. And it's not just about data that's stored on computer systems. We're now engaging with AI agents in a conversational way. So it's not just business data that's stored in files and folders. It's the business data that's also stored in our brains as part of that bigger company, that bigger organization. That in itself, if there's not the governance in place to use artificial intelligence from a company perspective and an industry perspective ethically, then that could pose some serious risks. I expect to see, more incidents of confidential company data being consumed by artificial intelligence and the artificial intelligence agents, and that potentially becoming publicly accessible to those with expertise in what we call prompt engineering. And there's an absolute art form to prompt engineering in itself, i.e. the way we communicate with AI agents. Cyber criminals, they recognize this, right? They understand it, and they're starting to use AI as part of their tool sets. So it's absolutely imperative that companies have artificial intelligence high on their agenda. AI is going to change the world, so you better be prepared.
Well. Need I ask a prediction, Ian? This was the whole purpose of today, is to speak to thought leaders just like yourself, experts within their own right in their own sector, and find out a little bit about the predictions that you would have as a business leader and as an influencer in your space. So give me 2 predictions about the things we need to look out for. And I don't mind if you're going to repeat yourself, Ian, in relation to what you've just said, but let's make it clear. I'm looking for 2 predictions. What are they?
So certainly in our space, we know that governments are tightening up their cybersecurity regulations in 2025 for operators of critical national infrastructure. And there's now an expectation that operators of essential services must be moving towards a more mature and stronger risk profile. It's no longer going to be good enough to say that you're just doing the basics. You need to be becoming mature. But the problem with that is there's a massive skills shortage in the cybersecurity industry. And I think that's going to pose the biggest challenge for organizations in our space. I guess secondly, weaknesses and vulnerabilities in the supply chain will continue to be targeted. And unfortunately, that's not an easy challenge to solve. What I do expect to see is an increased focus on strengthening the supply chain by not only governments, but also leading organizations and industry as a whole, as they do try to become more mature and try to solve this challenge. And I can foresee this year, frameworks such as Secure by Design and certifications such as the UK Cyber Essentials becoming mandatory expectations rather than optional extras. So I really do see that cybersecurity requirements are going to have to filter throughout the supply chain, and I can see that coming in 2025.
Well, Ian, I'm gonna suggest that you could almost be a politician, and the reason why I say that is because our first speaker this morning from the UK was the Right Honourable Sir Stephen McCarthy, our former National Security Minister, who focused on the impact on supply chain and the shortage in skilled workforce in supporting the growth that's required in this industry. Almost verbatim, what you just said, Ian, was almost the same. You will see that for yourself shortly. There's no question, Ian, that obviously you are completely up to speed with and au fait about what goes on in your space and the broader field of cybersecurity. From my point of view, when it comes to operational technology, if there's anyone out there that needs to understand more about what's going on in this space, they need to be reaching out to you guys. Just going to summarize this, Ian, because I see you a lot on the road right now. And the fact that we've spent time together in 3 different locations last year overseas: Dubai at JISEC back in April, May in Saudi Arabia, and November in Abu Dhabi. What's on the schedule this year, Ian? What's the focus?
So last year was an amazing year for us. Just quickly to reflect on our year last year and look forward to this year, we tripled our UK headquarters office space here at our home in Net Park in the northeast of England, which we're super proud of. We welcomed an amazing new cohort into our apprenticeship academy, strengthening our workforce for the future as we try to solve our own skill shortage for new engineers coming into the industry. And finally, we established our regional headquarters in the Middle East in Abu Dhabi. So what have I got coming up? So I'm flying out to the Middle East in the next 3 weeks. I'm heading over to the United Arab Emirates. I'll be in Dubai. I'll be in Abu Dhabi meeting with new customers out there. Then we'll be flying out to KSA, to Daman, to take part in Cyberforge. And then looking forward a couple of months, we'll be also attending and exhibiting at JISEC, which will be our 4th visit to JISEC. Each and every year it gets bigger and better. We've got some amazing plans in place for our exhibition and some of the stuff we're going to be doing and showing at the exhibition. We've got some real cool tech that we've been building, and we can't wait to get out on the road and educate people, work together, form partnerships, and just make our industry as strong as we possibly can.
Well, Ian, it's going to be a busy year for you, so I do appreciate you taking time to come and join me this morning on Let's Talk Cyber. I should say this afternoon on Let's Talk Cyber. All it needs for me to say is Ian Gemski, CEO and founder of Tekgem, thank you so much for joining Let's Talk Cyber.
Thanks, Tommy.